the mean value of 6 numbers is 3 and the variance is 7 over 3. Find the values of A and B given that A is less than B. So we know that the mean of these guys is 3. And to calculate the mean, we add the values. So A plus B plus 2 plus 3 plus 5 divided by how many there? Which is 6, and that should be equal to 3. So that implies that A plus B plus 15 over 6 should be equal to 3 because the mean is 3. And therefore A plus B plus 15 will be equal to 18. So A plus B will be equal to 3, which implies that B is equals to 3 minus A. So there's a reason why I'm writing this. B is equal to 3 minus A, because I suspect at some point in this solution we will need this substitution. Yeah, because you're trying to find the values of A and B. So the next step is to find the variance. Now, we know that to find the variance, we have to subtract the mean from each of these data points. So A minus 3 squared plus B minus 3 squared plus we have 2 minus 3 squared plus 3 minus 3 squared plus 5 minus 3 squared plus 5 minus 3 squared. All this over 6. And that should be equal to the variance. Yeah? Remember the steps on how to calculate the standard deviation. Yeah? Remember, you subtract the mean from each of the data points and you square, divide by 6, then you get the variance. So that's the same thing that I'm doing here. So if we simplify this, we shall end up with A minus 3 squared plus B minus 3 squared plus 1 plus 0 plus 4 plus 4. All this over 6, and should be equal to 7 over 3. And then, let's simplify this. So we'll have A minus 3 squared plus B minus 3 squared plus 9 over 6 should be equal to 7 over 3. And now this is where the substitution comes in. Yeah? So now we want to substitute this guy here so that we can be able to end up with an expression in terms of A. So what we shall end up with here is A minus 3 squared plus 3 minus A minus 3 squared plus 9. All this over 6 should be equal to 7 over 3. So, and then the next step here is basically simplifying this, guys. So again, here we'll have, yeah, we can just expand this. So A squared minus 6A plus 9 plus A squared over 6 should be equal to 7 over 3. And if you simplify that numerator, we shall end up with 2A squared minus 6A plus 18 will be equal to 7 over 3 multiplied by 6, which will be equal to 14. So what we end up with is a simpler um, quadratic equation, which is 2a squared minus 6a plus 18 is equals to 14, which can be simplified as 2a squared minus 6a plus 4 is equals to 0. And if you just solve this, you'll end up with a is equal to 2 or a is equals to 1 as your solutions. I mean, you can factorize it, use quadratic formula, or just use your calculator, it's no problem. And then after that, you plug that into B here. So if you plug into B here, those values of A, you'll end up with B will be equal to 1 or B will be equal to 2. But because we know that A is less than B, that will imply that A will be equal to 1 and B will be equal to 2. So those will be our solutions. For the set of data given here, where A is a member of real numbers, find the mean and the variance in terms of A. And part B of this question, each number in the set is now decreased by 3. Find the mean and the variance of the new set in terms of A. So the first step is just to find the mean in terms of A. So the mean here will be equal to the sum of these values, which is A minus 1 plus A plus 2 plus A plus 3. All this over how many they are, which is 4. And this simplifies to 4A plus 4. All this over 4. And this simplifies to A plus 1. And then to find the variance, so the variance, we need to subtract the mean from each of these data points. So A minus 1 minus A plus 1, and then we square that, plus A minus A plus 1, and then we square that, plus A plus 2 minus A plus 1, and then we square that, plus A plus 3 minus A plus 1, and then we square that. And then all this over 4. So that will be equal to basically, if we simplify each of those brackets, we'll end up with negative 2 squared plus negative 1 squared plus 1 squared plus 2 squared. All this over 4, yeah, which will be equal to 10 over 4 if you just sum up those squares, or square each of the numbers and sum them up. And that will be equal to 2.5. And that's the variance of this data. So part B of this question is to find each number is in the set is now decreased by 3. Yeah, so you have a constant number that has been subtracted from each of the numbers. So find the mean and the variance of the new set in terms of A. So we know that when each of the data set is decreased by 3, then the mean will also decrease by 3. So the new mean will be equal to the original mean, which is A plus 1 minus 3, which will just be A minus 2. And then the new variance we know that if you subtract a number from each of the data points, the standard deviation does not change. And what that means is that if the standard deviation is not changing, and we know that to get the standard deviation, you find the square root of the variance. So the variance won't change because you can think of it as the variance and standard deviation will be almost something similar, only that one is the square root of the other. So the variance in this case will not change. It will just be 2.5. It won't be affected at all.